What's up, YouTube? Welcome to a special episode here on the Museum Reviews channel. In honor of Independence Day, we will be taking a look at the top 25 American portraits from the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. As always, if you enjoy the episode, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get on to the video. Honorable mention: George Washington, the Athenaeum portrait. Was painted by American artist Gilbert Stuart in 1796. After the first portrait, Stuart painted of Washington in 1795, became extremely successful. Washington sat again in 1796. Although the portrait was never finished, Stuart kept it to refer to when producing future commissions. This unfinished portrait has served as the basis for the engraving of Washington, which appears today on the $1 bill. Number 25. Grover Cleveland. Was painted by Swedish painter Anders Leonard Zorn in 1899. Grover Cleveland was the first president to serve two non-consecutive terms as the 22nd and 24th president. 2 years after Cleveland finished his second term, this portrait was painted of him at his estate in Princeton, New Jersey, where he and Zorn spent multiple days together. Number 24. William Howard Taft. Was painted by American painter William Valentine Sheville in 1910. Taft, the 27th President of the United States, is most well known for his significant legislative reform on trade. Specifically, he signed the Monelkins Act of 1910, which regulated destructive competition and unfair trade practices. Number 23. Zachary Taylor. Was painted by American painter James Reed Lambton in 1848. Zachary Taylor, the 12th president, was swept into the White House on a wave of popularity resulting from his victories in the Mexican-American War. In this election year portrait, Taylor is presented as a sedate and uncharacteristically groomed figure, as many of Taylor's soldiers knew him as old, rough, and ready. Unfortunately, Taylor suddenly died only 2 years into his presidency. Number 22. John Marshall. Was painted by American painter Cephas Thompson between 1809 and 1810. Marshall, the fourth Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, strengthened the idea of an independent judiciary by establishing the concept of judicial review, in which the Supreme Court could pronounce a law of Congress as unconstitutional. Cephas Thompson painted this portrait of Marshall in Richmond, Virginia, as well as 6 replicas for admirers. Number 21. William Henry Harrison. Was painted by American painter Albert Gallatin Holt in 1840. William Henry Harrison served as the 9th President of the United States and was most well known for being a military hero in the War of 1812 and a frontier Indian fighter. However, just 1 month after delivering a long inaugural address in adverse weather conditions, Harrison became the first president to die in office. Number 20. James Madison. Was painted by American painter Chester Harding between 1829 and 1830. James Madison, the 4th President of the United States, most famously authored the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, known as the Bill of Rights. Madison also co-authored the Federalist Papers, alongside Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, which argued for the ratification of the Constitution. Number 19. Richard Nixon. Was painted by American painter Norman Rockwell in 1968. This portrait of Nixon was painted the year that he won his first presidential election. As President, Nixon was most concerned with ending the Vietnam War and establishing a relationship with China. However, his second term was cut short after the Watergate scandal and subsequent cover-up, which led to Nixon's resignation. Number 18. James Knox Polk was painted by American painter George Peter Alexander Healy in 1846. James Polk, the 11th President of the United States, was one of the most consequential political figures in American history, as he acquired more than 1 million square miles for the country as it expanded west. Polk was so driven and determined that he accomplished all of his agenda and left office after his first term, as he planned. Number 17. John Quincy Adams was painted by American painter William Hudson Jr. in 1844, before becoming the 6th President of the United States. John Quincy Adams served as an ambassador, a senator for the state of Massachusetts, and as Secretary of State. Adams was also a distinguished lawyer, as he successfully argued before the Supreme Court for the freedom of 2 African prisoners in 1841. Number 16. Dwight D. Eisenhower was painted by American painter Thomas E. Stevens in 1955. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States, first served as the Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe during World War II. Additionally, Eisenhower also achieved the 5-star rank as General of the Army. Number 15. Ronald Reagan was painted by American painter Everett Raymond Kinsler in 1991. Ronald Reagan served as the 40th President of the United States and is most well known for his conservative economic and social policies. On foreign policy, Reagan guided the country through the end of the Cold War. Number 14. Franklin D. Roosevelt was painted by American painter Douglas Chander in 1945. Roosevelt served as the 32nd President, led the country through both the Great Depression and World War II, and was the only president to be elected to 4 consecutive terms. This portrait is particularly interesting, as it has 3 distinct components: a normal bust-length portrait of Roosevelt, a depiction of his meeting with Stalin and Churchill, and a series of different hand poses. Number 13. James Buchanan was painted by George Peter Alexander Healy in 1859. James Buchanan served as the 15th President of the United States from 1857 to 1861. Buchanan is most well known for his commitment to states' rights and the Manifest Destiny ideology. However, many scholars today rank Buchanan as one of the worst presidents due to his inability to resolve conflicts leading up to the Civil War. Number 12. Martin Van Buren was painted by George Peter Alexander Healy in 1857. Martin Van Buren, the 8th President of the United States, was the first natural-born citizen to become president. Van Buren is remembered for advocating for an independent treasury system in order to combat the economic depression, now known as the Panic of 1837. Number 11. Ulysses S. Grant was painted by American painter Thomas LeClaire in 1880. Ulysses Grant served as the 18th President of the United States from the years 1869 to 1877. Although a distinguished general during the Civil War, Grant had trouble managing the politics of the Reconstruction, which led to an outbreak of federal corruption. This portrait was owned privately by Grant, while a larger version entered the White House collection. Number 10. Alexander Hamilton. Was painted by American painter John Trumbull in 1806. Following the Revolution, Alexander Hamilton advocated for a strong national government and co-authored the Federalist Papers with Madison and John Jay. Hamilton also served as the first Secretary of the Treasury and laid the groundwork for the creation of a national bank. After a supposed insult, Hamilton was fatally shot by Vice President Burr in 1804. Number 9. John Adams. Was painted by John Trumbull in 1793. John Adams, the second President of the United States, is considered to be the most intellectual and accomplished founding father. Adams helped craft the argument supporting the independence of the Continental Congress, and also served on the diplomatic mission which ended the Revolutionary War. As president, Adams kept the nation at peace, even as France interfered with American commerce abroad. Number 8. Andrew Jackson. Was painted by American painter Thomas Sully in 1824. Andrew Jackson, the seventh President of the United States, was the orphan of impoverished immigrants and the only American president to have been a prisoner of war. Jackson first became a national hero after serving as a general during the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. Number 7. Ulysses S. Grant. Was painted by Norwegian painter Ole Peter Hansen, Balling in 1865. Ulysses. Grant was promoted to Lieutenant General of the Union Army by President Lincoln in 1864. This portrait, painted by Hansen, who was a former Union soldier himself, depicts General Grant in a trench during the 1863 siege of Vicksburg. The map on the table beside Grant shows the area along the Mississippi River. Number 6. Theodore Roosevelt. Was painted by Ukrainian artist Sigismund Ivanovsky between 1908 and 1910. Theodore Roosevelt served as the 26th President of the United States and was the youngest president when he took office in 1901. Ivanovsky depicts Roosevelt with monsters, which symbolize unconstrained capitalism. Likewise, the snakes on the right of the canvas represent the Standard Oil monopoly, which Roosevelt successfully sued to dissolve. Number 5. Barack Obama. Was painted by American painter Kehinde Wiley in 2018. Barack Obama served as the 44th President of the United States from 2009 to 2017. Obama made history in 2009 as he became the first African-American president. The portrait depicts President Obama sitting in a polished mahogany chair, with intensely covered leaves and flowers fully surrounding him. This style of portraiture highlights the signature contemporary style of Kehinde Wiley. Number 4. Benjamin Franklin. Was painted by French painter Joseph Siffred Duplessis in 1785. During his time, Benjamin Franklin was considered to be the most famous American in the world, as he was a scientist, inventor, signer of the Declaration of Independence, and member of the Constitutional Convention. Benjamin Franklin's face remains highly visible today, as this portrait was selected in 1985 as the basis for the engraving of the $100 bill. Number 3. Thomas Jefferson. Was painted by American painter Mather Brown in 1786. Thomas Jefferson served as the third President of the United States. Jefferson was one of the most accomplished and complicated personalities in American history. Jefferson was a leading Enlightenment philosopher in America, and famously authored the Declaration of Independence, which justified the American Revolution and listed many grievances against King George III. Number 2. Abraham Lincoln was painted by Dutch painter W.F.K. Travers in 1865. Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States and famously led the Union. Through the Civil War, this portrait is rich with symbolism, as it tells the story of Lincoln's achievements. Next to the Constitution, Travers included a nod to the 13th Amendment, which Lincoln supported. The globe in the background is positioned on Haiti, as Lincoln was the first to recognize it as an independent nation in 1862. Number 1. George Washington Lansdowne Portrait was painted by Gilbert Stuart in 1796, as both a military and political figure. Washington was a unifying force during the country's formative years. As the first president, Washington installed the Supreme Court and the presidential cabinet, and quelled the Whiskey Rebellion. Although an extremely popular leader, Washington humbly declined to run for a third term in order to take precaution to avoid a dictatorship. Thanks for watching this special episode. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what your favorite part of the video was. Turn on the notification bell as well, so that you never miss a future video here on the channel. Stay tuned for more content coming your way very soon. See you in the next one.